things. But now the people are feeling that there was a fraud. In the name of movement, it was a Jamati coup, anti-liberation and Pakistani, pro-Pakistani coup. And this is the interesting part of Bangladesh. And if you see that today, the Awami League political party, the government has banned Awami League. All senior leaders are in India or in the jail. Yet today the shutdown was very successful, and there is a two verdict. One is ICT verdict and one is people's verdict. In the ICT verdict, this Pakistani force, the pro-Pakistani force, anti-liberation force owned, but in the eye of people, Sheikh Hasina owned.
Right, Mr. Mohan, let me just also see clarity on one of the points that you mentioned. You mentioned a military coup. Now, in an interview to CNN News 18, Sheikh Hasina did absolve the military, in fact, saying that they were stuck fighting between constitution and chaos. That being said, however, with this sentence and with this verdict that has been given out now, what sort of a political message do you think this is sending to other political actors, the interim government especially?
Interim government is in the hand of Jamaat and pro-Pakistani, and there is just a doll-like government, and they're acting whatever Jamaat and anti-liberation force are wanting. So I don't think that they don't have any ground, and they're just in the power with the blessings of anti-liberation forces. So this government, I don't think that there is a proactive government exists in the country, because the law and order situation and everything is out of control, and government is not doing anything about those things. They have only two agenda: one, fulfilling the Jamaat's and Pakistani desire, and second thing is the selling the port and other institution. Dr. Yunus has his own personal interest, own personal business, and he is doing all these things.
All right, with more information that is just coming in, sources close to Sheikh Hasina have said that the verdict is not on legal lines, and they have in fact also once again reiterated that the country is being pushed towards complete radicalization, saying that Muhammad Yunus is in fact a puppet and is working as such. So this is what they are saying. You can see these are the statements by sources close to Sheikh Hasina, saying that Yunus is a puppet and is working accordingly. This country is now in the hands of radicals who are supported by terror groups. Hasina will fight the verdict and will go back. Big statement there. This is what they are saying, that the verdict is not on legal lines. From all the experts that we have also been speaking to, pretty much on expected lines the verdict is, and the country is being pushed towards complete radicalization. That's what they're claiming. And Yunus is a puppet and is working accordingly. This country is in the hands of radicals who are now supported by terror groups, and Hasina will fight, Sheikh Hasina will fight and this verdict and will go back. Now we also have with us Mr. Deep Haldar, who is still with us. Thank you so much for staying on with us. I just want to ask you now, these statements which are coming from Sheikh Hasina's close aides, what is your assessment of what's going to happen going forward? Of course, what sort of legal tools are still at their disposal?
Within Bangladesh, there are any legal tools that Sheikh Hasina, which are in Sheikh Hasina's favor. But I think, like the gentleman from Bangladesh said, that and Shubhi Bhaumik told you, that it's still a very potent political force within Bangladesh. If elections were to be held in Bangladesh, and if Awami League, were allowed to participate, you will see still a lot of votes that comes in Awami League's way. So I think those grassroots level workers, and supporters of Awami League are still within Bangladesh. So coming forward, I don't think a legal route, but I see very tense times for Bangladesh. Protests are already broken out in Bangladesh. There have been cocktail blasts today. Even as the country was preparing for the ICT verdict, I think going forward there's going to be a lot of very violent clashes. If elections were to be held in February 2026, legal route, I don't think there is. There are that many options for Sheikh Hasina, because, like her information minister told me, that the judiciary has also been compromised.
Right, absolutely. Now they are pretty much saying that the verdict is not on legal lines, however it is on expected lines, as we've been discussing as well. That being said, what does this mean for the political future of Bangladesh, especially with the interim government, which one would expect is now feeling further bolstered?
So I think interim government is also trying very hard to hold the elections in February. There have been serious doubts raised from time to time about those elections. But I think now the interim government would want to hold an election any which way by February without, Awami League participating in it. So for Awami League supporters and leaders, it would be a fixed election. But I think the government would want to now hand over power to an elected government, whichever party comes to power, most probably to be the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, and would sort of, want to wash its hands off all political matters in Bangladesh. But again, like there are questions being raised about the veracity of this judgment. There'll be huge questions raised if you hold an elections in February without the Awami League.
All right, Mr. Varan is still on with us. Let me just come across to you once again and ask you the same question. What do you think this means for Bangladesh's political future? What do you think is going to happen going forward? Now, we know that the sources are saying that Sheikh Hasina will fight and in fact will come back. What's your assessment?
Oh, Bangladesh is in the verge of civil war now because this verdict has given them no room of consolation and compromise. Because even today, when the verdict was given, there's some people they're going to Dhanmondi Bangabandhu Bhavan in road number 32 to block this, and they're arguing that they will make a playground in this historic house. So this intolerance and this violence, this will lead to civil war in this country. Definitely, Awami League has got the ground and they have popularity now because it's not 2024 when most of the people were anti-Awami League, anti-India, but there is a realization now in the mind of people. So, and one thing I want to share that I don't think that there will be election in Bangladesh because Jamaat is still in the street demanding the peer system in the election, and they want a referendum before the election to be held because there is a constitution, some constitutional amendment point, and which they are saying that the constitutional reform. Sorry. So Jamaat is still playing game, and I don't think that BNP has a mind to go to the street and fight against Jamaat.
Right, so allow me to interject. We are getting some more information right now. We're getting the first reaction by the BNP on this verdict on Sheikh Hasina. On CNN News 18, BNP has welcomed the Crimes Tribunal judgment. They have said that facts and evidence were always there, conducted thorough fact-finding report. That's what they are saying. BNP says everyone knows from where the orders had come. 2 months of bloodshed, Bangladesh needed closure. This is what they're saying, BNP closure. Only when victims' families get justice, that's when we get closure. Muhammad Yunus does not need to fabricate anything. These are the statements coming from the BNP. These are first reactions. And they ran a racket. That's what they are saying. Listen to this.
Yes. So, the July movement and the last 17 years of oppression and, the crime against humanity that has, took place in Bangladesh, the evidence and the documents and the facts were already there, and we've already seen the fact-finding report done by United Nations a few months ago. They did a thorough fact-finding report which was and which they actually made public for the whole world to see, and for what happened in the July-August movement, and how and who from where the order came from, who was responsible for the killings and the 2 months of just bloodshed that happened. And also as a political worker, I've seen the suffering of the political leaders, political parties, opposition workers, activists, human rights activists, journalists, reporters, across the board, in all sectors, people from all sectors, whoever tried to raise a voice against, the last regime and their, unlawful activities and policies were victimized. So I think this judgment that happened today was the whole country was waiting for it, and me personally, I have always had this view that we are looking towards a new Bangladesh, united Bangladesh. To have a new Bangladesh or to proceed towards a united Bangladesh, the
All right, we are now being joined by Muhammad Hassan Chaudhry, former Bangladesh minister as well. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. What's your assessment of this sentence and this verdict? As you know, ousted Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been sentenced to death by the ICT. This is the verdict. She was found guilty on charges of crimes against humanity. We also got the first reactions from BNP, Shama Ombed. You just heard that as well, the statements coming from the faction as well, and they did say that all of the evidentiary support was pretty much in place, and this is what is going to give the people of Bangladesh closure. And they did say that Muhammad Yunus does not need to fabricate anything. Also, on the other side, sources close to Sheikh Hasina have said that Muhammad Yunus in fact is a puppet and is only acting as such, and she will be fighting this verdict and will go back. Now, let's just go across to Mr. Muhammad Hassan Chaudhry, former Bangladesh minister. Thank you so much for joining us on CNN News 18. I want to begin by asking you what your assessment of this is, and we've all started getting the reactions which are now pouring in. What is your assessment?
See, the trial from the very beginning, we've said it very clearly, it's a complete farce. The tribunal which was constituted to try genocidal officials of Pakistan Army and their collaborators during the time of 1971 is now has been misused by the interim regime. I say misused because the tribunal didn't have the mandate to try any other criminal case but charges of genocide during the time of 1971. This government has brought some amendments into the law for which they actually had no legal authority. The constitution only allows the parliament to pass amendments to laws. They are an interim government. They brought these amendments hastily just to include the riot situation of 2024 and try Sheikh Hasina and the senior leadership of Awami League and convict them before the next election. So it's a plot to exclude Awami League as much as possible from the next upcoming election, which they want to hold in a one-sided manner. So they know that the verdict cannot be executable because she is not in their custody. They know that even the Home Minister is not there. They have already turned the other accused, the Inspector General of Police, into the state's witness. So the whole process was farce. And we of course reject this verdict, the court's authority, and we will continue to protest against this regime.
Right, of course, there's also this very big aspect of the international community, especially the government of India. What sort of expectations are there?
So could you repeat that question again?
I just want to ask you what you think the role of the international community is, specifically India.
You see, they are trying to finger point at India for giving our leader shelter. It's not just that India has given our leaders shelter. Many of our colleagues have gone to other countries, France, UK, USA, and many other, Australia, for example, and they have obtained asylum in these countries. So many countries in the world do recognize what is happening in Bangladesh, that the country is in the grip of an extremist group, and there is a wholesale persecution of secular liberal political leaders and activists. So India has given shelter to our leader, but other countries have also opened their door for many of our colleagues. But these lot want to create as much trouble as possible with India, because they've already declared that ISI, Pakistan Army's intelligence officials can operate in Bangladesh, which they could not for the last 15 years. Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed has already declared that their operatives in Bangladesh are very active. In the past, during our time, we have dismantled this terrorist network, the militants, but right now they seem to be in charge. Yesterday, all the extremists had held a protest in Dhaka without any interference from the government. Senior leaders of different militant political parties of Pakistan are traveling to Bangladesh. Bangladesh has recently amended their immigration laws to allow Pakistani officials without visa into the country. So their objective is to cause as much trouble as possible in the country in the days coming.
Right, absolutely. Now, of course, we also heard Sheikh Hasina's close aides are saying that she will fight this verdict and then she will go back. From what we are given to understand, there aren't very many legal tools, if at all, at her disposal right now. So what is this fight going to look like for her, and what does this mean for Bangladesh's political future?
See, Bangladesh was stable for the last 15 and a half years. Whenever democracy functioned properly, institutions functioned, we had stability and economic growth. But right now, everything is uncertain. The election is uncertain. They're planning to hold a one-sided election, and they're concerned that our leaders might stand independently in the election, which is why they've targeted the leaders and prepared a list of popular leaders to convict them in the ICT tribunal illegally. At the same time, they have also filed hundreds of thousands of cases against us, so that we are not able to operate our political activism, we are able to run our political activism inside the country. So when you push a major political force like this and the entire secular liberal force in the country like this on the brink, of course they are going to fight back. And when we fight back, whilst they are there, it's not going to be a very positive scenario for the country in the days coming. This is what they want. They want the country to be brought to civil war-like situations so that they can continue to hold power, and anarchy and chaos gives them legitimacy, because they do not want legitimacy from the people. These are militant people. They see what happens in Pakistan, they want to replicate it in Bangladesh.
Right, absolutely, and of course there's this very real threat of instability and violence and protests that could break out in Bangladesh as well. The situation remains very volatile still. What do you think is going to happen on ground, and the implications of this verdict going forward, considering that Sheikh Hasina is in India?
Our activists are all there. Our activists, our leaders, most of them are in the field. Some of them are in jail. More than 150 of our MPs are in jail, but our activists are all out there. We are already active. People have responded positively to our recent protest movements. They have voluntarily done so, and we are preparing for a major. We are preparing to counter these extremist forces. So let us see what happens in the next couple of weeks, and our objective is to oust this illegal government. Until our last breath, we will keep fighting.
All right, absolutely. Of course, right now the situation still remains very volatile. What do you think are going to be the immediate next steps? Of course, the reactions are slowly pouring in as well. We heard what the BNP members have had to say. Also, they're saying that this is the closure that the people of Bangladesh needed, and there was in fact all the evidentiary support that was required from the word go. So what do you have to say about that?
There was no lawyer representing our leader Sheikh Hasina. How can you ever challenge whatever was being presented to the court? And they have submitted some audio clips, no reference to the source of the clips and the context in which such conversation took place. I mean, it was a one-sided trial. Even if we are to consider the court as a legitimate court, forget the legitimacy of it, which is of course very doubtful and totally illegal. The entire process was fraudulent, if I am to say. The state prosecutor, we have evidence that he was simply extracting parts of different novels, literatures, in order to describe what has happened rather than actually giving evidence as he should. He was copying and pasting from different fiction and novels and molding them to the allegation and submitting it to the court. So it was a staged drama, which is why we are calling it a kangaroo court. They do not have, the people do not believe these allegations, and therefore people will rise up against them.
All right, Ms. Ravi, thank you so much for joining us on CNN News 18 with your perspective and your insights on this. And with that, it's over to my colleague Ayushman. It's over to you.
Thank you for that. So this is the situation that's unfolding on the ground, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, Sheikh Hasina's entire camp has said that Bangladesh is suffering under Yunus's chaotic, violent rule after being sentenced to death by the Dhaka court. That is the situation unfolding on the ground. The BNP has reacted, calling it a closure for the people of Pakistan in the wake of the student protests that led to several deaths, as well as the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. But Sheikh Hasina digging in her heels when it comes to countering what the Dhaka court had to say, saying that the verdict is from a kangaroo court. It's a rigged tribunal, unelected government which has no mandate, saying that the marching orders will come in from the Awami League leadership, including her, to fight this verdict and fight those forces which are controlling Bangladesh. She has hit out at the Yunus regime, saying it's backed by terrorists as well as radical elements. And I'm joined by my colleague Siddhant Mishra on the broadcast to decode this further. Siddhant, clearly at the end of the day, Sheikh Hasina is digging in her heels. She's here in India under the shelter of the Indian government, but at the same time decode the resilience that she can deliver to her workers on the ground, because clearly now it's all-out war between the different political factions in Bangladesh.
Well, that's right, Ayushman. This is the first statement of Sheikh Hasina to CNN News 18. In fact, she did speak about that how this tribunal was rigged. Unelected government has no mandate in Bangladesh. Verdict is politically motivated, designed to eliminate Awami League. Extremist figures in government wanted death penalty for Hasina. Bangladesh is suffering under Yunus. In fact, she also alleges that ICT created to scapegoat Awami League, not to seek truth. Public services have collapsed under Yunus. Hindus, minorities, women under attack in Yunus regime. Islamist elements inside government undermining secular Bangladesh. She also alleges that I was denied fair chance to defend myself. ICT is neither impartial nor international. Verdict was a foregone conclusion. If they are honest, take the case to ICC. Now she's saying that take this case to ICC, I will be acquitted. Interim government fears ICC is scrutiny of its own rights abuse. ICT targeted only Awami League. Yunus came to power unconstitutionally with extremist support. Peaceful protesters shot journalists, tortured. Awami League homes burned. Nationwide crackdown on Awami League workers. I never ordered lethal force. So it's a response coming from Sheikh Hasina. In fact, during the pronouncement of the order, many times it was mentioned by the court that Sheikh Hasina ordered the usage of lethal weapon, and perhaps this is one of the case against her. Now, Sheikh Hasina is saying in her defense that I never ordered lethal force. Evidence was twisted. Student leaders themselves admitted to arson and sabotage. UN report based on coerced anonymous testimony. Key records withheld from UN inspectors. Now, she is alleging that Yunus government withheld the key records with the UN inspectors, because one of the basis of this entire case against Sheikh Hasina is also the UN report, which says that 1,400 people were killed during the July uprising. Now, she also says that that judicial inquiry as set up was shut down by Yunus. Government held data, 834 dead, not 1,400, 52 not killed by gunfire, 19 found alive. My government upheld human rights. GDP grew 450 million lifted from poverty. Yunus has no achievements remotely comparable. Bangladesh's future belongs to its people. Next election must be free, fair and inclusive. So a big message coming from former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, that next election needs to be free, fair and inclusive. I did not use lethal weapon. The number of deaths have been exaggerated. The exact numbers have been withheld from the UN report. So she's making series of allegations on the Yunus government, Ayushman.
Absolutely, not pulling her punches when it comes to hitting out at the Yunus regime inside Bangladesh. We're also joined by Syed Burhan Kabir, Chief Editor of Bangla Insider. He's joining us live from Dhaka. Thank you, sir, for joining us on the broadcast. My first reaction is that as you have seen Sheikh Hasina's reaction, she is very defiant. She is training her guns at the Yunus regime. What kind of muscle does she still wield inside present-day Bangladesh, and what kind of muscle does the Awami League have as the political tensions are only escalating inside Bangladesh?
Okay, it is this question has we have two answers I can give. One is that the workers of Awami League, Awami League is one of the most popular organization in the country, and they have penetration in the grassroots level. The grassroots level workers, they are fighting just after 5th August 2024, but now they are getting ground and they are organizing and they are getting direction from their leaders who are in the hideout. And on the other hand, the last 1.5 years, people are pissed off with this government because the law and situation is not proper. There is mob justice everywhere. The fundamentalist forces are attacking every places. The price hike, the economic condition is getting worsened. So people are fed up with this government. So that's why people are feeling that the past government was better, Awami League was better. This type of feelings are coming up from the ordinary people, those who are not involved in any kind of politics. So that's why if you can mix all the grassroots people, grassroots local Awami League leaders, and the people, ordinary people, those who are fed up with this government, both are getting together. And if these two forces can get together, then there will be inevitably Bangladesh will face a new revolution.
Right, and at the same time, as we are talking about the Yunus regime, Mr. Kabir, what kind of diplomatic muscle does the Yunus regime have? Because we've seen a lot of rumblings from within Bangladesh trying to impress upon India that Sheikh Hasina should be extradited back to Bangladesh. Does the Yunus regime have the muscle to create some diplomatic pressure via other nations on India to extradite Bangladesh, given the political tensions on the ground? At the end of the day, for them to get Sheikh Hasina back, try her in court, let's say go through with the death penalty, that will be something that would, if you will, cut the head of the snake.
I don't think that the Yunus government has that much international footings, international coverage and international popularity to make a diplomatic campaign to bring back Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh and execute the trial. But on the other hand, this government is what we are seeing from this country. This country is leading towards the Islamist group like Pakistan. We have some more diplomatic relation with Pakistan. The Pakistan ships are coming in Bangladesh. Lashkar-e-Taiba type of organizations like fundamentalist terrorist organizations are getting ground in Bangladesh. So I don't think that there will be any international pressure, and they will just keep this issue alive so that they can do some more violence in the country, and the fundamentalist force can do some more anti-Indian, anti-liberation situation in Bangladesh.
Right. And so you're saying there is an opportunity of a 1971 2.0 where India is backing another Rahman back into power?
Yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Could there be a situation where we are seeing a redux of 1971, a 1971 2.0, where India is backing the return of another Rahman to the helm of Bangladesh?
Yes, of course. Today's situation is just like 1971, and India. Not only India, all international organizations, international countries who believe that Bangladesh should be a progressive democratic country, they should go behind the Bangladesh pro-democratic people, and they should tell this Yunus government to make an enduring environment in Bangladesh so that there can be a free, fair election. Unless there will be an inclusive, free, fair election, there will be a civil war that is inevitable in Bangladesh.
Siddhant, I want to get that perspective from you. Mr. Kabir is pointing out a great political opportunity for Sheikh Hasina to make a return because the Yunus regime is not popular right now in Bangladesh, as well as the rise of the fundamentalist forces that we're seeing inside Bangladesh. So an aggressive Sheikh Hasina, given the circumstances in Bangladesh, is a good diplomatic and a geopolitical opportunity for India.
Well, that's right, but India has never thought this way, Ayushman, to be very honest, that India could use Sheikh Hasina as a tool perhaps to deal with Bangladesh. Never ever. In fact, time and again, India has assured Bangladesh, in fact, this new government, full support when it comes to the benefit and work together when it comes to the benefit of two people. So with this, logic that India may use Sheikh Hasina as a tool, or perhaps this is a new diplomatic advantage that India has over Bangladesh. I don't think that is the case. All India wants is free, fair and inclusive elections in Bangladesh, and perhaps if Sheikh Hasina is giving interviews to the Indian press or to the international press, if she is speaking, she is issuing statement, perhaps India is a democratic country. India believes in freedom of press. India also believes in free speech. She can do that, and
right. Mr. Kabir, if Mr. Kabir is still with us, right, we'll try to get that perspective from Mr. Kabir and Siddhant as well, but that is the situation on the ground. Mr. Kabir, as you were pointing out that the Awami League is still popular given the unpopularity of the current Yunus regime, as well as this unleashing of fundamentalist forces inside Bangladesh. On the other side of the political spectrum, who can give that tough fight to the Awami League, which is the more organized force, because it won't be an easy fight for Sheikh Hasina's party.
Okay, now after 2024, this Bangladesh has divided into pro-liberation and anti-liberation forces, and BNP was pretending to be the pro-liberation forces, but their acting and their all activities are in favor of anti-liberation forces. So if there would be an election, inclusive election in the country, there will be a three-party conflict and three-party contest. Like Jamaat has getting momentum, and they have huge fund, and they have huge ammunitions, arms, and they have cadre in their grassroots level. BNP was very much popular, but last 1.5 years they are decreasing their popularity because of their some unrest in their internal circle, and also BNP has some problem with the people. They are just starting some violence. There's corruptions. So there will be a three-party contest if only would get the equal level playing field, and if there will be a free, fair election in the country.
Right, and talking about the geopolitical opportunity, Siddhant, your perspective on this, given the turmoil inside Bangladesh, and especially in the wake of this ruling by the Dhaka court, which has pretty much inflamed the Awami League. We've also seen in the past few weeks how the Yunus regime has warmed itself to Pakistan, warmed itself to China. There is a trifecta, if you will, that has been created in India's neighborhood. Also, the greater Bangladesh jibe which came in from the Yunus regime, taking over a huge chunk of the northeast. What kind of opportunities or what kind of analysis is running through the minds of the officials in the EMEA right now?
Well, look, India is ready to work with any government in Bangladesh for the benefit of the people of two countries. But also the fact is, Muhammad Yunus is not an elected leader. He is an interim leader of Bangladesh. In fact, as far as engagements are concerned, Ayushman, then in February there was a visit. Foreign Secretary visited Bangladesh in December. In fact, NSA of Bangladesh is expected to be in India. I think by now he must be in India. He has come here for the Colombo security dialogue. So engagements between the two government is going on. There is no doubt about it. All India wants is free, fair and inclusive elections. India definitely wants to speak and to engage with the elected leader elected by the people of Bangladesh. Perhaps Muhammad Yunus was chosen as the interim leader. All the stakeholders supported him at that point in time. But he has failed miserably when it comes to delivery, Ayushman. All he has been doing is making provocative statements, loose remarks. Perhaps one day he says that we are the guardians of ocean, we will provide access to the northeastern states, to the oceans. One day he gifts a book to some foreign dignitary where the Indian territory is shown as the Bangladeshi territory. One day he will go to Doha or maybe some West Asian country and say that Indian media does a lot of fake news. India is a factory of fake news, things like that. So such statements from Muhammad Yunus have really been impacting the relationship between India and Bangladesh. There is no doubt about it. And perhaps this is the reason that Indian government time and again, even when the elections were not announced by Muhammad Yunus, have been reminding the Bangladesh government that there is a need for an early election. So definitely India, being a neighbor, being a friendly country, wants stability in Bangladesh, wants Bangladesh to elect a leader with which India can work closely for the benefit of the two people. In fact, yesterday, Ayushman, we reported that how the Pakistani clerics were invited to Dhaka, including Maulana Fazlur Rahman and Aurangzeb. Both of them made provocative speeches at Uddan in Dhaka, the same place which once witnessed the historic speech of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the same playground which once saw the surrender of the Pakistani soldiers to the Bangladeshi soldiers. Perhaps on the same place the provocative speeches were made, and these Pakistani clerics, what they demanded, a blasphemy law to be implemented in Bangladesh, or the same model which is existing in Pakistan. So such things have been happening. The extremist forces are mushrooming. The forces like Jamaat-e-Islami, in fact there are other factions also, other groups also, they do their gatherings, they make provocative speeches, and Muhammad Yunus, who was once seen as this modern technocrat, forward-looking person, perhaps has been reduced to being a leader of these extremist forces, because he helps them with space, he allows them to do whatever they want to do, and perhaps that is the reason that he's enjoying power.
Right, so this re-Pakistanization of Bangladesh is something that is a huge cause for concern, especially given the fact that fundamentalist forces are mushrooming inside Bangladesh. But at the same time, India hedging its bets on both sides, currently maintaining the line that democracy should thrive in the nation of Bangladesh. Mr. Kabir, when we look at those student protests which erupted in Bangladesh, one thing that was really striking for the people of India was the demolition and the defacing of the statues of Mujibur Rahman, the founder of Bangladesh, the man who used democracy to carve out Bangladesh. Clearly it was an armed struggle as well, but at the same time he was the father of Bangladesh. One sec, please hold on with us, we're getting a piece of breaking news. What we are learning is that crores of workers are ready, there will be war again, our struggle will continue. This is the pitch that's coming in from the Awami League declaring all-out war inside Bangladesh, ladies and gentlemen, in the wake of the Dhaka court ruling. What we are learning is that the pitch that's gone from the Awami League to all of its workers on the ground reads, crores of workers are ready, there will be war again, our struggle will continue. Victory to Bangla. You can see the pitch that they put on social media. Clearly, Sheikh Hasina and her entire leadership ready for all-out war inside Bangladesh after the Dhaka court ruling that sentenced her to death for the deaths which took place during the student agitation, which led to the ouster of her regime. So as you can see, the language is only escalating from Sheikh Hasina. She has said there will be war again, our struggle will continue, victory to Bangla. And as my colleague Siddhant as well as Mr. Kabir were pointing out, the mushrooming of fundamentalist forces, the cozying up with Pakistan, the re-Pakistanization, the post-1971 attempt to convert Bangladesh into another version of Pakistan is something the Awami League is now fighting against, especially spurred by this ruling of the court that's coming from Dhaka, which has sentenced Sheikh Hasina as well as her home minister to death. And now this is the pitch coming in from the Awami League. They put this war cry, if you will, on social media, saying crores of workers are ready, there will be war again, our struggle will continue, victory to Bangla. Mr. Kabir, how do you see this statement coming in? It's clearly what we've been discussing, the Awami League ready for all-out war inside Bangladesh, given the fact that this death sentence has only spurred the leaders on the ground?
Yeah, that was what I was telling before, that Bangladesh will not sit aside and that they will watch this all mockery verdict and or mockery trials. They will act, and now Awami League has ground in the field and they have popularity also, so they will fight it out definitely. And one point, as you said earlier, you asked me that why the father of the nations movement was destroyed, why Dhanmondi Bangabandhu Bhavan was destroyed. So in answer to that question, we have to go to the 71. This 5th August so-called revolution was not a people's revolution. It was a conspiracy by Pakistanis, ISI, and the anti-liberation forces to make Bangladesh Pakistan again. And in now it is the all patriotic people should stood up and fight against this Pakistani ISI, Pakistani regime, and anti-liberation force. That's the bottom line. So whether you have to decide that whether you are pro-Bangladeshi or you are pro-Pakistani, whether you are in favor of liberation or whether you are against the liberation. That's the division in the country now, and we have to decide something.
Right, so that is the political battle line that has been drawn inside Bangladesh in the wake of this verdict by the Dhaka court. Are you pro-Bangladeshi or pro-Pakistani? And the Awami League under Sheikh Hasina seems to have found that great political opportunity to pave the road for her return. That message coming in from the Awami League on social media that they are ready for war. So this is a message that has gone on from Sheikh Hasina to the Yunus regime. We will continue to track all the developments which are coming in. For now, a quick break. More news and updates on the other side.
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। MP साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है, आप देखिए कैसा होता। असदुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा खत्म हो गया एक चीज के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के 2 ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और मक्का हज एंड उमरा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है। बास कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो DCM है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं, और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उमरा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर कौंसल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और DCM इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है। ये प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए कैसा होता, असुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया एक चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और मक्का हज एंड उमरा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है। बात कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं, और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उमरा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर कौंसल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज़ जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है। ये प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए कैसा होता, असुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया एक चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और अल मक्का हज एंड उम्रा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है, बात कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उम्रा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर कौंसल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज़ जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है। ये प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए आप कैसा होता, असदुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया एक चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और अल मक्का हज एंड उम्रा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है। बास कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं, और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उम्रा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर कौंसल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए आप कैसा होता, असदुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया एक चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और अल मक्का हज एंड उम्रा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है, बास कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उम्रा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर कौंसल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है। ये प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए कैसा होता, असदुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया एक चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और मक्का हज उम्रा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है। बात कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि काउंसिल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं, और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उम्रा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर काउंसिल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है। ये प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए कैसा होता, असुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया एक चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और मक्का हज एंड उमरा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है। बात कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं, और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उमरा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर काउंसिल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज़ जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके, ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है। ये प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए कैसा होता, असुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया एक चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और अल मक्का हज एंड उम्रा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है, बात कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उम्रा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर कौंसल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज़ जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है। ये प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए आप कैसा होता, असदुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया इस चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और अल मक्का हज एंड उम्रा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है। बात कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं, और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उम्रा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर कौंसल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
हमारे लोगों को जो हुआ वहाँ पे डेड बॉडीज अगर ला सके तो प्रोसीजर के लिए क्या हो सकता, वो एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि प्रोसीजर आसानी से करो बोलकर, और जितना हो सके तो जल्दी फास्ट प्रोसेस करो बोलकर रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट से, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है। एमपी साहब से भी रिक्वेस्ट है। आप देखिए आप कैसा होता, असदुद्दीन साहब से है, हमारे सबसे है रिक्वेस्ट, आप प्लीज़ इसमें वर्कआउट करिए। इसके अंदर पूरा खानदान हमारा ख़त्म हो गया एक चीज़ के अंदर।
ये मुझे भी खबर अभी मालूम हुई है कि हैदराबाद के दो ट्रैवल एजेंसी, एक फ्लाई जोन टूर्स एंड ट्रैवल्स और अल मक्का हज एंड उम्रा के 42 हाजी मक्का से मदीना जा रहे थे बस में, और बस को आग लगने से मालूम हुआ कि सिर्फ एक शख्स की जान बची है, कंफर्म नहीं है, बास कह रहे हैं कि पूरों का इंतकाल हो गया। तो मैंने इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद में जो डीसीएम है अबू मैथिन जॉर्ज साहब से मेरी बात हुई, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि कौंसल जनरल जिद्दा भी और वो खुद इस पर मालूमात हासिल कर रहे हैं और जो भी ज़रूरी कार्रवाई करना है वो करेंगे। और साथ ही साथ मैंने इन तमाम उम्रा पैसेंजर्स के दोनों ट्रैवल एजेंसी से वीज़ा डिटेल्स लेकर कौंसल जनरल ऑफ इंडिया जिद्दा को और डीसीएम इंडियन एम्बेसी रियाद को और साथ ही साथ फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी को मैंने ईमेल किया है। मेरी भारत सरकार से और ख़ास तौर से एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से जयशंकर साहब से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली इस पर देखें, और अगर जिन लोगों की डेथ हुई है उनके परिवार ये चाह रहा है कि उनकी डेड बॉडीज़ जल्द से जल्द इंडिया को लाई जाए, और अगर कोई उसमें ज़ख्मी है तो उनको अच्छी से अच्छी वहाँ पर उनको इलाज हो सके। ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर से और भारत सरकार से।
Then by the Bangladeshi government to seek Sheikh Hasina's extradition. In fact, the same was confirmed to us by Ministry of External Affairs. We are still awaiting response from Ministry of External Affairs on this statement by the Foreign Ministry of Bangladesh.
Right. Ms. Sikri, what do you make of this statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bangladesh asking India to give back Sheikh Hasina and also the former Home Minister, and that is what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs there in Bangladesh is referring to. But as far as this extradition treaty that India has with Bangladesh, what are the pros and cons? What are the caveats that are in place that will give that safe haven that possibly is going to continue for Sheikh Hasina, and the formal, in fact, application of this verdict by the ICT might not happen?
Let us be very clear about extradition treaties and the process of extradition. Nobody extradites anybody on the basis of a one-liner from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In January, they sent a one-liner saying, please send her back. Now they said, oh, here, this is the court verdict, please send her back. Now, it is India where Sheikh Hasina is residing, and India has to see all the evidence. There will be a court case in India itself to examine the evidence on the basis of which this order, death sentence has been passed against Sheikh Hasina. It's not that you get a one-liner note from the Foreign Office and you hand over Sheikh Hasina.
And that's a very important point that you're making. I really want you to elaborate on this dual criminality that needs to be established, not just in Bangladesh, because they've already convicted Sheikh Hasina. It needs to be done here in the country also for India to even start that process of extradition or possibly agree to the extradition of Sheikh Hasina?
First of all, yes, that same crime, you have to look at the question of dual criminality is there. Now you can say a death sentence for a certain whatever you think that some people have been killed. You have to look into that evidence. That evidence has to be presented in the Indian court. And in the Indian court, even Sheikh Hasina's lawyer will be given every chance to defend it. You can't just pass a sentence against somebody and say now extradite them. The process of extradition is extremely long, as we have seen with people like Vijay Mallya or Neerav Modi or others. Those are civil cases, those are not criminal cases. Even some of them are criminal and some of them are civil. So even for that, look at the way in which the UK courts have been examining the evidence and examining all the cases and what will happen to them. Will they be put in the proper jail? All kinds of things are there. So it is a very, very long and elaborate process before any extradition can take place. So if the government of Bangladesh thinks that just by the foreign ministry issuing a one-liner that the people will be sent back, they actually don't know international law at all. They don't know what is the purpose of an extradition treaty. It is precisely to prevent against any kind of kangaroo court justice that the extradition treaties are concluded. So I think that there is a very, very long way ahead, and I think the first thing to do is to see on what basis this court verdict has been passed. I think that is what needs to be looked at by all of you, by everyone. What is the evidence? Who are the people who died? Where is the post-mortem? How did they die? Where did they die? I remember very well that the Bangladesh papers last time spoke about 350 people dying, number one. Number two, there was also the talk of a large number of policemen having been killed by the Yunus regime and his people, by the so-called students themselves. And the death of the policemen and the destruction of the police stations, 400 of them, was so extensive that even till today the police force is not functioning at full force. And this was such a criminal act, but the Yunus regime and his cohorts, they have indemnified themselves against it. So they are trying to be totally one-sided. They are trying to blame Sheikh Hasina and then not saying about all the violence which has taken place 5th of August.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the reason why her version has not been recorded. Remember this trial, the verdict has come in absentia and they've decided to keep it that way, and Sheikh Hasina has been claiming that it's a one-sided one, it's a kangaroo court that has assembled to give her that death sentence. We'll keep an eye on this big story that's coming from our neighboring country, Bangladesh, but right now, let's move to an important update in the Red Fort blast case. We're learning that the probe into the Al-Falah University has also gathered steam with the arrest of Hamoud Siddiqui, who is the brother of University Director Jawad Siddiqui. He was arrested by the Mau police from Hyderabad in connection with the investment company case. He's currently being interrogated, we are told. My colleague Anshul with all the details. Anshul, the chit fund scam case that's associated with the Al-Falah University now back at the forefront with this arrest.
Well, yes, the chit fund scam case that happened approximately 25 years ago. Again, the entire spotlight is on that chit fund scam, because it is from there where the initial money was taken by the founder of this university and then eventually invested in this university, which became a spot from where so many doctors have in fact been taken into custody for allegedly being involved in this entire terrorist act that happened out here in the national capital on the 10th of November. But this is the chit fund case that is being investigated by the Mau police. Initially they were trying to question Jawad as well, but Jawad has not answered to the summons that have been made by the Mau police. However, his brother, who was another accused in the similar case, has now yet again been taken into custody. The Mau police now wants to find out that what kind of money was actually invested in the Al-Falah University. Remember, the background and the amount of money that had gone into making of this entire university is already being investigated by agencies themselves. In fact, Delhi Police Crime Branch is also looking into this entire issue of how they were able to acquire such a big piece of land in Faridabad and then eventually build a university in just a matter of 10 years. So all these questions needs to be answered, and that is the reason why the entire investigation that has started from zero, and slowly the agencies are trying to make sure that each and every aspect is covered to figure out that how did the university eventually become a university from a small dispensary just 10 to 12 years ago.
Well, thank you so much for that, Anshul. With that, it's a wrap from my side. We're going to a very short break on the broadcast. Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. This is Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. There's lots lined up for you on this edition, but let's get you started with the headlines. Former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina sentenced to death for crimes against humanity committed last year's student-led protest. Sheikh Hasina lashes out at Yunus regime over the ICT verdict, calls it rigged, orchestrated by an unelected government which wants to eliminate the Awami League. Awami League vows to fight the Sheikh Hasina verdict in the streets of Bangladesh. Party in a statement says millions of its workers are ready for the war that's coming. After landslide victory, NDA's oath-taking ceremony likely on 20th at Patna's Gandhi Maidan. Lalu Prasad Yadav's family feud intensified. Rohini Acharya alleges insult over kidney transplant. Tej Pratap comes out in support of his sister. Breakthrough in the Red Fort blast case. NIA arrests Umar Nabi's aide Amir Rashid Ali for conspiracy with the bomber. Accused sent to 10-day custody. Army Chief General Trivedi warns Pakistan says Operation Sindoor was just a trailer. At least 42 Indian pilgrims feared dead after a bus carrying Umrah pilgrims collides with a diesel tanker near Medina. Prime Minister Modi, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar expressed condolences. Let's begin this broadcast with some breaking news that's coming in. Investigations in the 10/11 blasts are now revealing that there was a divide within the terror cell. There are two stakeholders, two important members of this terror module, Dr. Muzammil and Dr. Umar Nabi. Reports are suggesting that what intelligence agencies believe is that they were divided on what their end goal was going to be. Sources say the terror cell had no unit.
friend, that I don't think that anybody would accept that this particular ICT, International Crimes Tribunal, was legally constituted, because the ICT was created by a mandate of a 1973 Act exclusively to try people who perpetrated war crimes in the 1971 Liberation War. There was absolutely no mandate for this ICT beyond that, and there is no parliament right now that could have given this mandate. But immediately after Muhammad Yunus took over as the interim regime chief advisor, he has completely weaponized the judiciary. All the lawyers from the all the judges, the judiciary members from the Supreme Court downwards were forced to resign, either by mobs surrounding them or by attacks on their homes, including all the ICT judges. So a vacuum was created in which an interim regime, which has no constitutional powers to appoint people to these posts, went ahead and appointed their own chosen people, mainly with backgrounds in Jamaat-e-Islami, which is the real force controlling everything in Bangladesh today. And then they went ahead and decided to try Sheikh Hasina. So I don't think at all that the question of a legal court can apply to the ICT, because it is clearly a kangaroo court. Secondly, I think even the lawyer that Sheikh Hasina has appointed was not allowed to take part there. And finally, I think even the evidence, there is no evidence. You say 1,400 people have died. Where are the names? Where are the post-mortem reports? When did they die? So many of them are shown having died after 5th of August or on the 5th of August after Sheikh Hasina left the country. So you can't really blame her for something that has happened after she has left the country. And you know, there's so many lacunae in the whole way in which the fastest ever trial conducted in Bangladesh over the last 54 years. I don't think that any kind of credence can be given. And the second part of it is that the actions done by the Yunus regime themselves, that means, you know, people, the so-called students who are actually all Islamic Chhatra Shibir, you know, attacking police stations, 400 of them, killing policemen, they still haven't got the police force back. All these, there's no trial for any of those acts because they have given themselves indemnity. They have indemnified themselves against these acts. So there is really a completely one-sided effort at showing that, you know, everything was happened. Now, for example, when you say that to face a law and order situation in the country, the Home Minister or the Prime Minister asked the police to take action and to ensure that nothing goes out of thing. And this can, on times, include orders to kill. Even today in Bangladesh, under the interim regime, they themselves issued orders to kill. And said, if he disturbs the peace, kill them. You know, these were the kind of orders issued today. So I don't think that this one-sided kind of a trial is going to get any kind of international credence. In the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Sheikh Hasina's lawyers, a group in England, a legal group in England, they have filed a case there. Some of Awami League members have filed a case there. Yes. We want all the issues to come up together, and I think that's the only fair verdict you can have, that let all the aspects be tied together. What happened before 5th of August, what happened during 5th of August, after 5th of August, after 8th of August, all those things should come up.
And until then, Veena Sikri, what does India do? What are India's options? Because Dhaka obviously will be pushing for India to send her back.
No, so let me explain on that as well. There has been a statement by the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Bangladesh saying this verdict is there, now send her back. I must tell you that any extradition treaty, and we do have an extradition treaty with Bangladesh, is a very complex process. So when a formal extradition, no formal extradition request has been received from Bangladesh so far, maybe a one-liner of a note verbal or something, that is not a formal extradition request. When a formal extradition request is received, it has to be accompanied by the full version of what happened in the court, the reason why the verdict was given, all the evidence, everything has to be presented to the government from whom you are asking for the extradition. And once that comes to the Indian government, in this case, because Sheikh Hasina is in India, then there will be a court case in India as well. The Indian courts will try and see whether that whole trial process in Bangladesh was conducted within the rules of law, or within the constitution of Bangladesh and all. And then the decision will be made by the courts in India on whether Sheikh Hasina can be whether the government can be asked to extradite her to Bangladesh. So I think it's a very, very complicated process. We have seen in other cases, we know that, for example, there are so many people who are being tried in the UK and so on, Indians, and it's years and years and years before, you can even say whether the person is going to be sent back or not. I think the question that you're asking on your channel about whether this is the end of democracy in Bangladesh, this is a very valid question, because there is no evidence that this government is doing anything under democratic norms and rules. We do know, for example, that even in Sri Lanka, where there was a Gen Z protest, even in Nepal, although, in Sri Lanka, the Rajpaksa government fell, in Nepal, the Oli government fell, but there is no question of banning any of these parties from taking part in the elections. But in Bangladesh, the activities of the Awami League have been banned under any kind of provision of the law or constitutional act. So I think that all these issues have to be looked at very carefully, and you cannot just wave a hand and say the quick trial and say, okay, now extradite her back. So there is no question extraditing Sheikh Hasina back to Bangladesh or sending her back, because the whole case has to be tried in India as well. And certainly all the evidences...
So Sheikh Hasina is digging in her heels, the Awami League also is, and perhaps New Delhi will too. But Syed Abbas, as far as Bangladesh and what lies in their future is concerned, one of the things that Sheikh Hasina did say in her statement after the verdict was that you compare the track record of what she has done as a Prime Minister and what has happened in the last 1 year under Muhammad Yunus, and that would talk about human rights excesses.
The fact of the matter, we need to understand the questions for me.
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you. The court noted, let us understand what the court noted regarding the Hasina case. The Hasina government did not pay heed to students' demands, and instead of listening to the students, the then Prime Minister, who was Sheikh Hasina, undermined the movement. Not just that, she made derogatory remarks pointing towards the students and terming them as Razakars, a term used in a very derogatory manner in Bangladesh. And also let us understand, it is not as trivial as, with all due respect, Meena Sikri ji is being made, no evidence, no this, no that. Man, lives have been lost. Enough number of lives have been lost. And who wasn't at the power of the epicenter? It was Sheikh Hasina ji. What did the International Court Tribunal come into play? She gave the order for the lethal weapons. It's on their own record, ma'am. Without an order from the head of state, lethal weapons don't come through. Shoot orders don't go out. Also, let us understand, in the aftermath of the derogatory remarks, and students, including females, burst into a rage. The court noted, adding that Sheikh Hasina then ordered the elimination of protesting students. Not just that, the judges also noted that the prosecution's witnesses proved that the attack on Dhaka University students was by Awami League wings, including the Chhatra League and the Yuva League. Also, if I can bring to your notice, the court exactly, let me verbatim, categorically state what the court said. I open the court. Sheikh Hasina ordered law enforcement agencies to use drones to locate congregating protesters and helicopters.
That's the charge the prosecution made, a charge that Sheikh Hasina has been denied.
No. This is what the court has said. Not the prosecution.
But that's what the court noted in the arguments made by the prosecution.
This is prosecution made these statements, but also the court concurred with it. These are the statements of the court.
Sure.
So Sheikh Hasina.
So we'll have to see where this goes from here, because clearly both sides are hell bent on what they are saying. Unfortunately, I'm completely out of time. I have to leave it there. I thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Nation at 5.